Hey everyone! Today is the start of something a little bit new, a series I'm going to call Creative Careers because I love alliteration and I want to create a resource for people who want some encouragement and want to know that a creative career is absolutely possible. The idea is to interview my favourite creatives, find out how they got where they are today, and to highlight the different creative things that you can do and that are possible, and that no one's route is the same. But without glossing over the fact that a career in something creative is quite challenging at times to get into. Grab a hot drink and watch us, or put us on in the background while you're creating something cool. If this is something you think you'll like, please subscribe to join in the creative conversation, see other upcoming episodes, and my other videos about creative illustration freelance life. So the first episode is with Lily O'Farrell, someone I've chatted to online for a little while because we enjoy each other's work and we're in the same kind of feminist illustration sphere. We met up in real life, really got on, and I asked whether she'd want to be my first guest on this podcast show. I haven't really decided what I'm going to call it yet. And she said absolutely. She is, in my opinion, one of the best cartoonists out there right now, doing such accurate, hilarious work. And her career path is really fascinating. I feel like she's only just begun, so watch her, watch this space, and watch this interview. So Lily, thank you so much for coming onto this podcast. I'm a big fan of you.
I'm a big fan of you.
Thank you. I love a mutual fangirl.
Yeah.
So of course you had to be the first guest
Thank you.
I had on here.
Yeah, I feel very honoured.
So yeah, I've prepared some questions for you, and the point of this new series that I'm hoping to do is to prove that there are creative careers, like they're possible. Not to brush over the fact that they're really difficult to get into, but just to show that, you know, there are people doing it for a living.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they can be done.
Yes. So my first question is quite fun, I think, and it is, what did you want to be when you were little, when you grew up?
So I guess like every kid, it changes every week. But weirdly, for a long time, I wanted to be an illustrator. And I think that's really rare that people's kid jobs are their adult jobs. At the time, I thought illustrator meant you did artwork to accompany like fiction. And I still used to think that for ages, which is why I call myself a cartoonist. I still think I am a cartoonist, but it's also apparently illustrators can write the content as well as draw. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you define yourself as?
Yeah.
Because that's a really difficult question sometimes, especially if you have lots of different
right.
strings to your bow.
Yeah, it was always, I think the term is, I'm a big believer in having lots of different, like a patchwork career, so having lots of different professions, especially in this world where you have to make money wherever you can. I would say I'm a cartoonist because I create drawings that have a story, have dialogue, have characters, that are funny, satirical, political. So I would say that I'm a cartoonist and an illustrator. If someone wants to call me an illustrator, that's fine. And then also meme queen.
Meme queen.
Because I have a meme account. Meme lord, meme queen, whatever you want. So that's what I am.
So, from childhood, what were the steps you took to become an illustrator, cartoonist? Or even the ones that maybe didn't seem on the path?
Right.
Just kind of took you on a little detour.
So, growing up, I always was interested in drawing. And when I say that, I think people picture me, drawing like a tree and a flower and, yeah. But it wasn't like that at all. It was, a lot of my friends were very good at drawing really realistic things, and I was drawing weird and ugly people. Like, that's what I would enjoy doing. So I would use crazy colours, and I would do like eyes popping out of faces. Often there would be dialogue, and it would be a kind of, I often draw like me marrying my brother, which is odd. No one seemed to question that. There's still pictures of it.
We need to see
my
that.
mum. I know, my mum framed it. It's like, it's really something you want to encourage.
It's on the fridge.
So yeah. So I drew weird and wonderful people, always people, which I think is really interesting to see that now that's still what I'm doing. Always characters, always funny characters. And I was good at art at school, and then I did GCSE art, and that's where it all changed for the worse, I'd say. Because how do you grade something like that? You don't. And everything I wanted to do in the spectrum of art was funny. I wanted to do cartoons, I wanted to do, like animation or something that was political or had commentary,
Mm-hmm.
and I was encouraged to not do those things and to do things like, you know, still life and
was it a bit of a fine art focused
Yeah.
GCSE? I
And
think that's where it kind of puts people off,
Mm.
because if that is what you're being told, like this is art.
Yeah, right.
Art isn't just fine art. There's a whole plethora of different things that you can go
Totally.
into do, but illustration and cartoons aren't really studied
No,
at school.
it's a kind of snobbery, I think, and like a bit of classism as well.
Mm.
So it really put me off, and I wasn't interested in art anymore. I got a D in my mock, and then eventually
How dare
scraped
they.
through and got a B, a very like low B, and was like, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to study art anymore. It was never that I wasn't going to do it. I was like, I just don't think I don't fit in this world. So that's how I saw it. So I did A-levels, did other stuff, didn't do art, and then went to uni and did sociology, just because I was interested in that. And weirdly, I think the sociology pops up all the time in my cartoons, so
I see that.
Yeah, and I recommend it as a degree, just if you don't know what you want to do, because it's just like a study of the world, so it's really great. So I did that.
Your cartoons are so perceptive about people and the world.
Yeah.
And I think that...
Thank you.
Do you think that fed into your work a lot?
Totally. Well, I think more the confidence to. So when I do, occasionally I'll mention kind of like theories in my cartoons. Like sometimes Freud comes up, or like I did one recently that mentioned a few theories around consensual and non-consensual fantasies, and those. I think having the confidence now to go seek out those theories, read about them, and then kind of chop them down to a like digestible, bite-sized way of understanding them is something I wouldn't have been able to do or have the confidence to do unless I'd done that at a degree. Because sociology is all about studying people's theories and then kind of explaining them to other people, I guess. That's the best way I would... It's like theories about how the world works and why we do what we do. And that's so much of what I do cartoons about. So I did that at uni, and then I went to Melbourne to travel, to live in Australia, and I loved I was really interested in comedy. So I worked at comedy festivals and for comedy clubs and things like that, and moved to Melbourne and started writing for a sketch writing group, writing comedy sketches.
Cool.
Yeah, which was great. And I was waitressing as well, just to, you know, eat food and
pay the bills.
Yeah,
get some money
have
somewhere.
A house to live. Yeah. What's interesting is I worked part-time as a waitress, and that was enough to pay my rent, because in Australia the pay is the quality of life is so good because you get paid so much and rent is so little. So I had lots of spare time that I wasn't having when I lived in the UK and I worked in the UK. In the UK, I was a waitress working in call centres, all sorts, and I didn't have that extra time. So once that time was freed up, I started drawing again, which I find so interesting, because I think that if in this country we had a similar quality of life, maybe like a universal basic income, or just some kind of, if everyone had enough money to have spare time, everyone would have creative pursuits. I really think that.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah. So I was just lucky to be in that place at that time, to have spare cash, to have time to sit in the garden and with a biro and a notepad, that's how it started, and start doodling these characters again. Mm-hmm. So I just had a light bulb moment where I just decided to draw a sketch that I'd written. So a funny sketch that I'd written about someone commenting on my clothes. And I drew it and I uploaded it online, and then people really responded to it and started giving me their own suggestions about things that happened to them. I started drawing them, and it was so cathartic for me. It was so satisfying, because not only was it my two loves, which was drawing and comedy, and three loves, feminism, it was like therapy. It really was, for me to be able to put that down and upload it, and for other people to say I've been through that too.
Mm-hmm. There's a kind of comfort and community there as well.
Exactly what it was. So then I moved back to London, carried on doing this, and I was doing stand-up comedy as well. So that really helped me to learn how to structure a joke. And
because you're so good. Like, the thing I love about your cartoons is the satire, the wit, and the punchlines. Like, that's hard to do, and I feel like you can tell you're just a funny person. And like even just chatting to you, like the little things you add in that just make me giggle. Thank you. I think I'm quite funny.
I think you are. I think you're like perceptively, like you're quite dry. People might like you'll say like quite cutting things, but you have the face of an angel, so people can't really hold you to it. wrote a 5-minute set, wrote a 10-minute set, and I performed it around different open mic venues in London. And it's all kind of similar subjects to what I talk about in my cartoons. A lot of it was about sleeping with guys who were intimidated by my sex toys or, really funny stuff. And then...
Amazing. Do you have any in the back of your head, or has it all gone?
I did have this one bit. I'm not going to tell you the joke, but I'll describe it to you because it's just quite funny. My friend basically got a kitten, and the kitten escaped after about 2 weeks. And when it came back, it was pregnant, and the cat had to get an abortion because it was too young for it to give birth. And I was just completely flabbergasted by the fact that I didn't know that cats could get abortions. No one's talking about the fact that cats get abortions, and I was like, jealous of this cat because no one's stopping it getting an abortion. No one's making it feel
shaming
shit.
it.
No one's shaming it.
Shaming this kid.
So I had a whole bit about how cats have it better than us, basically, which was people tend to seem really respond to. But interestingly, when I brought up abortion, it would kind of be like.
I was going to say, was the room just like silent?
Yeah. So there's this thing that I really like called a relief laugh, which is when you bring up a really tense subject, maybe on like a personal level, and then you really confidently kind of cut through it in a really funny punchline, and it allows everyone to kind of laugh, but also breathe a sigh of relief. And it's a really great way of like connecting to the audience. So, so that was something I had to get better at because I was talking a lot about very serious issues and. But it was great. It was a great way of learning how to write because you have a sketch comedy is good for that as well. But with stand-up, you have an instant response from the audience about whether something is funny or not. And you go home and you tweak it and you try it again. And so I have a similar thing now with my cartoons in that I can tell within an hour if something has been, if a cartoon has really related to people, if people are enjoying it, because you get the algorithm, you get the likes, and you can track it. So it's very similar.
Do you find a bit more comfort in that it's not your face directly on the art, so there's a little bit more of a barrier between the audience and you now?
Yeah, a lot of people say, like, would you still do stand-up? And I definitely would go back to it, but it's not something I want to pursue, like I want to pursue this. And the reason is because with stand-up, you do your set and then you do it again and again and again and again, and you tweak little bits here and there, but ultimately you're doing the same 5 minutes of material for a year, and it's boring as fuck. So but for me, it was all about the writing is what I was interested in, and with cartoons, you write your piece, you upload it, and you put it in the drawer and you start something new.
On to the next one.
And that's what I love, because it's my brain, I need something to be ticking along with. I get too bored so quickly.
Think I'm really similar to you in that I'll do a piece, okay, on to the next.
Yeah.
And also I have a document of ideas, but they're old ideas now because I've come up with all these new ideas.
Totally. Me too. But in terms of my face, I didn't used to put my face up very much because of the trolls I was encountering, and I would get, kind of threatening messages sometimes. People would send me things and screenshot my face, all those, awful.
Really?
Awful, yeah. But it would come and it would really depend on what I posted. If I posted something that was quite fist punching, kind of like punching the air, I would get more trolls. So I didn't used to, but then I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm sort of letting them win by doing that, as long as I'm not putting anything personal out there where they're able to, track me down, whatever. So I've started to use, instead of putting my actual face up, which I do occasionally, but I've now started to put myself as a cartoon character in my cartoons way more than I used to. So there used to be fictional characters, which I still sometimes do, like a fictional woman, and it's a really good way of diversifying the characters in my cartoons.
Yes.
But when it's something that I feel is quite a sensitive topic that's quite hard to broach, if it's my story and it's me, it's way easier to do that because I'm just being completely authentic. So like that one I mentioned, having a kind of forced sex, like a ravishing fantasy, that was my fantasy. So by putting myself in that, I think it allows people to connect with me more as like the author. So
yeah, I think people will, and me especially, will respect you for being so brave in talking about something that is actually really common that no one dares to talk about. So I think you're actually building a really nice community as well.
Thank you.
That will,
I hope so.
Yeah, respect you. For
I worry that it makes
yourself
me
out there.
Yeah, I worry it makes me narcissistic by putting myself in the cartoons, but I think it's
I do it sometimes.
Yeah, it's just the only way, I think, if you're trying to be authentic. Otherwise, you're putting your words in someone else's mouth.
I think people really want to know how you grew your Instagram.
Yeah. So I
always like advice for social media. That's usually the question that I get asked a lot in DMs, if there's anything artistic.
When I finished doing stand-up, I was working in TV, in comedy, and evenings and weekends I was drawing and uploading. And one thing that I think is really key is that I was never doing this, ever doing this to create an audience or to, become Instagram famous. I was doing it because it made me so happy. And if I didn't draw for a week, I would really feel bummed out. It was so odd. It was just this thing that kept me going. It was like my identity. It was so important to me. So I just did it every second that I could. I would cancel plans to stay home and draw. I was like Matilda, but some books and drawing.
Matilda the illustrator.
Yeah, right. And then I just kind of, the audience grew, the demand for my drawings grew. I guess the more followers I got, the more I felt I needed to keep drawing because people were waiting for my drawings, which was amazing. And then I got furloughed during the pandemic when I was working, and it like enabled me to draw every day. And it was the first time I was able to do that, open a shop. And then I kind of gently quit my job in a really positive way and became self-employed for the first time in my life. And it's never anything I thought I'd be doing, especially not when I started drawing, on the back of receipts when I was waitressing in Melbourne.
But I think that is the thing, like the authenticity.
Yeah.
The fact you weren't chasing followers.
No.
Because I feel like you can really tell when someone is.
Oh, totally.
And they're kind of sort of piggybacking on trends.
Right.
But if you're doing the piggybacking, you're not setting trends and you're not necessarily being true to yourself.
That's a really good point. That's true. So then I did a couple drawings just about things that annoyed me. Things that annoyed me, and there was a gradual growth of Instagram followers always, but there were a few ones that really just took off.
I wanted to ask, which one do you think was most popular, or which one sort of spiraled the growth?
Yeah, well, the one that really kicked
a point.
Yeah. The one that kicked it off was the one that I call the wifey whore complex, or the wifey material complex. So the first time I did that, I knew a little bit about the Madonna whore theory. Yeah, so that one just took off. It was basically about it. You know what? It was. I can be honest now, but it was sparked from a real life incident.
Oh,
I'd always come across it my whole dating life. I'd come across it as a straight cis woman just because I was always very open about sex. I was quite promiscuous, always very promiscuous, and the way I dressed, the way I talked about sex, the way I had sex. And I encountered some men who saw me as someone that was a kind of a sex and not love, like a one night stand, but not someone you bring home to your mum, someone you have sex with.
That phrase.
Yes. Someone you have sex with, but someone who doesn't deserve your respect.
Uh-huh.
And I was seeing someone, a long-term boyfriend, and we would, experimenting like you do with someone that you trust. And we were doing really kinky stuff, and not even that kinky either, and he told his friend, and his friend was like, that's really disrespectful, that's awful, because that's the woman that you love, that could be the mother of your children, that could be the woman you marry, that's not how you treat that woman. And what really angered me about it is that it assumed that I had no choice in this, that I wasn't the person encouraging him to initiating the kink stuff with him, because I was. And it was like, it was so interesting to me that so many men that I encountered, and women actually, had these two separate views of women, of these two boxes of the, like, you slap her on the ass, or she makes you like brownies. It's so, the apron.
Why not both?
Yes. So that's what sparked it, and I drew that, and it was sparked by that. But I had a whole plethora of quotes that people had told me that I was intimidating or whatever, and I started collating them, did this drawing, didn't think it would really, I just thought it was something for me, really, just to get off my chest, and people really responded to it and shared it with their friends, shared it on other platforms.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was so, but more than anything, it makes me feel less alone. I feel like less of a one-woman island. Everyone's I've experienced exactly the same thing, and it's like, thank God, I'm not weird, I'm not a dick, like I'm just...
And it's really nice when you get people saying, oh, thank you for this, I thought I was alone.
Yes.
And then everyone realises they all felt alone, but they're all kind of coming together over this one piece of art.
Totally.
And that's what makes art great. Do you have a single income stream, or do you have many? If it's a bit too personal.
No, that's not personal.
As I know you said you sort of have a patchwork
career
as well.
It's more, I have a sort of patchwork career, but I'm more interested in creating a patchwork career. So I'm teaching myself how to tattoo, because I would love to.
Yes, I saw you were looking for tattoo guns.
Yeah. So this kind of thing, singular one-off fun things. I would love to walk around and see my cartoons tattooed on people's arms.
Yeah, that's really cool. Would you get one on yourself?
Oh, I'd absolutely practice on my arm. I would only be able to do my left arm because I'm right-handed. I mean, I could try, but I'm sure it'd be a bit crooked, but maybe that's the fun of it. So I have a single income stream in the sense that being a cartoonist is my single income stream, but actually within that realm, I have different ones. So, which I think most people do. So
yeah, I think so. I think it's healthy too as well. If you just have one. So I was relying heavily on commissions for quite a while, and I realised that's really not good because sometimes the commissions aren't there. So I've been trying to build up my shop for the last couple of months.
Yeah, the shops. I love the shop when it's up and running, but it's so much work. It is a lot of work. But once you've got it up and running and you're like in that, once you start running, you kind of don't stop, and it's great. It's just about getting there. So, yeah. So my various income streams are commissions. Also, I would call them. I haven't met any other artists who call them this, but I call them personal and corporate. So, a personal commission is someone who follows me on Instagram who wants a commission for their friend's birthday, for their girlfriend's birthday, whatever, an anniversary present.
Do you do kind of joke, cartoony things or like portraits?
I do both. So there's something this is again something I've learned through experimenting with people, what people want. So I do a portrait which is cheaper, and it's kind of a max 2 people on a A4 or A3, and often they'll give me something about that person that they like, lots of different things, and I'll draw them in a kind of funny. So for example, someone said, this is my boyfriend's birthday, here's some pictures of him. He loves naps, he loves cheese toasties, and he likes dressing up when he goes to festivals. So I drew him asleep in like psychedelic gear on a giant cheese toasty, sleeping on a giant cheese toasty.
Oh, that is good. Yeah. This is so funny and so personal as well. Yeah. I think that's what that's something that makes you stand out as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So I did portraits for people, and then also cartoon strips so this will be like relationship histories or just like funny moments, and those will be up to about 10 frames, and those ones I charge more for because it take me more time because it's basically 10 individual images. And then a corporate commission is when you work with a brand. So that will be me doing a cartoon, advertising something and posting on my Instagram feed, which I've actually never really done before.
You said you're coming up to your first really big collaboration.
Yeah, so I'm just starting to do that now. And what's been nice with it is that I've reached out to them because I started to feel like I was comfortable now to start working with brands. I knew what my voice was. I felt confident enough to do that. So I reached out to them because it was something I was actually using in my personal life, and I really was so interested in it and thought it was really amazing and totally what I believe in, and I wanted to promote this to more people.
Amazing. Yeah. And that way you're also staying really authentic to you, and you're dictating the sort of tone and feel rather than a brand coming to you saying, we want to work on an ad, please advertise our product.
Yeah.
And you sort of losing that ownership over the art and creative voice.
Yeah, I mean, I get emails a lot from other brands, but I've always turned them down because it's annoying because I want to make money, but I want to be authentic. Like, I think I would only ever promote something that I would want to be promoted with. So when I do work with this brand, I am going to be really honest about the fact that I approached them and that it's something I really do believe in. And like, as an example, so I was on the pill for years and I've been very open about my journey with it and how awful it was for me. And I now use Natural Cycles, which is like the only FDA approved period tracking app, but you also track your temperature and all those other things that track your fertility. So I've also been very open about that, because when I talk about coming off the pill, everyone's like, well, what do you use now? So I've said, this is what I use, and I did a whole Q&A about it, but I didn't work with the brand because I personally am just terrified of being paid to work with a brand and then for someone to swipe up, subscribe, and then get pregnant, and
then feel like you caused.
And it's not my fault, because it's all, the whole thing with period tracking is that it's all down to you and how committed you are to it, how much work you put in. But I just don't want to be associated with something as
fair enough,
explosive as that. I don't really want to show my face very much. I don't really want to. I would much rather do a funny cartoon that has a kind of a funny bit of advertising promoting the product.
Yeah, and I think that way you're gonna feel comfortable taking brands' money. Because one thing, it's really hard to turn money down, but one thing I really don't want to do is be on camera holding up a product, especially if it's a product I don't use and don't absolutely love.
I mean,
I usually will say I'm happy to do an illustration, and I'll separate it into two. So either it's an illustration for the brand for them to use on their website, their own social media, or it will be an ad when I feel comfortable promoting their brand. So I'll say, well, I'll do the illustration and I'll post it, but with my own terms in there.
That's good.
And just turning it into something that I would create normally anyway.
Well, that's it. No, I have nothing against influencers. That's totally, I think it's a really interesting...
not
really,
at all. It's just
creative,
a different sector.
Yeah, but it's more, for me, it's like when you're working with a brand, you're doing an exchange of skills, and they're giving me their product to promote, and I'm promoting it using my skill, which is cartoons, something funny, something, kind of political, and then that's how I'll do it, and that's me being authentic. So that's my two revenue streams, and my third one is my shop, which at the moment is just prints and every so often t-shirts.
Yes, I love this t-shirt.
Thank you.
Have we got it in frame?
Yeah.
No worries if not.
The shop is, I really enjoy the shop, but it's hard. There's so much admin involved. It really takes away your time and energy from doing things that are creative. So it's about finding that balance between creating new content, new art, exploring your style, taking risks, and also, packing and posting and going to the post office every day.
Yeah, it's a huge commitment as well.
It's a big commitment.
Because it's another job, and it's the customer services, it's sales, it's product inventory management, and then going to the post office with your bags.
Yes, but I do enjoy it. It's really nice to have a kind of like manual relief from something that's so brain exhausting.
This is what I say about the shop. Like I find it really meditative. Just totally. Packaging prints. If you've got a few of them. Yeah, I completely agree. So I'm going to be adding more stuff to the shop. Just keep your eyes peeled. We'll have to keep an eye on your social media for the announcements. Which is, by the way, what's your social media handle? Oh yeah, so it's Vulgar Drawings. I came up with a name when I was 21. I thought it was like a fun pun on vulva. It doesn't really work, but it's too late to change it now, so I'm stuck with it for life. So it's Vulgar Drawings without the R, but to be honest, when you type in vulgar, it pops up anyway. So perfect. Yeah, and then you can see my meme account through that. It's my Vulgar Memes is my meme account if you're interested in memes. And I also have a website which you can also find through my Instagram, and it's just vulgardrawings.com. And I'm on Twitter as well, but Twitter's not that great for images. No, it's not my favourite. No, but you can still find me at Vulgar Drawings Twitter. Send me a message if you want, only if it's nice. I'm not going to respond no trolls. Yeah, no I'm trolls, not going to respond to you if you're telling me to die in a fire or whatever. I've had that before. No, have you had that? Yeah. I was laughing, but it's funny. It's quite funny. You can laugh. Die in a fire. Oh, God. So actually, how do you deal with trolls? And does your work ever get sort of criticism? Yes. Because it can be quite political, and I wouldn't call it controversial, but to others it might be controversial. Yeah. So I deal with trolls a lot. It really depends. They kind of come in waves. So they'll sort of like come above the ground when I've done a post that's quite controversial or quite explicit or any of those things. And it will just start arguments, and I'll get people DMing me. The DMs, the comments annoy me because I don't like it when people are hostile to my followers, and I find it hard to keep on top of it because it's so upsetting to read, but I also want to protect people by blocking them and restricting them, and I'm the only person who can do that because it's my account. So I find that difficult. I get DMs too. Generally, the best thing I've found is to block, restrict. Restricting, a lot of people don't know the difference between this. So blocking means this person can't even see your account or contact you. And restricting, I find, is quite good. It basically means that this person can still see your account and they can still post comments, but no one else can see them. So it's kind of like they're muted, but they don't know that they are. The trolls come and go, but one thing that I have started doing is, and this is why I haven't restricted my comments, is so as I said, I did sociology at uni, and I was aware, we studied a lot of kind of extremism, and we talked about this before, about incels. So for people who don't know that, that's involuntary celibate. You can Google it. It's basically, I would describe it as extremist misogyny that starts online, has a lot of roots in white supremacy and also neo-Nazis. But it's basically mostly young men who are
angry about the fact that they're still virgins and they blame women. It's very complex, but it's interesting if you read about it. So I knew about them because of studying them, and then I started to see them actually coming into and commenting and DMing me because I recognized some of their language. They have some really specific slang. And incels is a really interesting one because the majority of my trolls are incels. And that means that the majority of them are teenage boys. And you can block, no judgment to people who block them and restrict them, because it's some of the things they're saying are really harmful, like the 15-year-old in America who's told me to die in a fire. Like, it's, you don't have to engage with that.
Did you block and restrict or engage?
I blocked and restrict him because it was so, there's nothing I'm going to get out of that. But with incels in general, it's a lot of young boys are groomed by older men and are radicalized. And I don't have, I would like to try and stop that from happening. Mm-hmm. So when someone DMs me and it's clear that they're a teenager and if they're not being hostile, like explicitly violent, they're just being a dick, then I'll reply and try and talk to them in a nice way, like I would anyone. I'm very much a fan of like debate I just don't agree with anyone shouting anyone down. I just think that it's a way to make people more isolated and make them more full of hate.
Especially on the internet. Yeah. I think there's just so much opposition rather than space for debate, because you're also not coming from two humans, you're coming like from two computers, like two humans behind two computers.
Exactly. Empathy is everything. Yeah. And there's nuance in everything. So so I try and engage with them, and that's why I don't restrict my comments, because a lot of the DMs I get are incels and we talk, and I've had some really great amazing conversations with them that I really feel like they've gone away and have had more to think about, and it's something I would love to engage with more in the future, like work with charities. It's only starting to be something that people are actually acknowledging, because obviously it's online, people just sort of don't really see it as real world, but it is. You know what, there's a real love-hate relationship with them, because I'm fascinated by them and I want to help these boys that are just kids that are being radicalized, but then at the same time when they're adult men and women, those are the ones that should know better. And I get also trolls who are left-wing trolls. I get a lot of left-wing trolls.
What, the sort of feminist community is quite polarising as well.
It is polarising, absolutely. There are people who will tell me I'm not enough of a feminist, or people tell me that I'm doing it wrong, or people that will...
Bad feminists.
Yeah, people that will tell me I'm not left-wing enough. When I'm just literally doing a drawing about sex workers, it's like... This is literally just a drawing about being open-minded. Like, that's literally, there's no other meaning about this. So I think I find those ones more infuriating, because I sort of expect the neo-Nazis to hate me. But with the left-wing people, I'm like, left-wing's the wrong word. With the people who agree with me,
sort of extreme, extremism of any type.
Yes, and they can be just as aggressive, just as...
So yeah, I saw I think it was an illustration of extremism, and it was a magnet. Have you seen it?
The horseshoe effect.
Yeah, the horseshoe effect.
Yeah,
this is it. You probably know about it already.
Yeah, so the more left wing you get, the more right wing you get.
Yeah.
Often there are basically things that are very similar, and I've found in my personal life that the thing for me that I've experienced is sexism more. I've experienced more from extreme left and extreme right. I don't know, I don't want to go into it, it's a whole other thing, but I think that
we'll save it for a different
it's just think empathy is key. And one thing I would say is that sometimes I'm just doing a funny drawing about something, and you don't need to try and read more into it than it has already been said. Sometimes it is just a drawing about how I don't like olives. Like, sometimes it's just that.
Have you done one about
I've done olives? A meme, and it really made some people angry.
Really? Oh no.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So people, the olive world is very black and white. Oh. Yeah. Very hateful.
Black and green.
Black and green, yeah.
Oh dear, that was a bad joke. But one you might want to think about for a little bit. Like, what's the best piece of advice you've been given? And it can be career-wise, or it can be life generally.
You know what? I already know. So
amazing.
This is something that I say to a lot of people. I think it was my dad who said it. I don't even think it was advice. It was just something he threw off one day. And what he said was, it was when I was going for a job interview, I think. And he said, it's got to be someone, so why wouldn't it be you? And I love that. I love that.
And so that could be for anything,
for a lottery ticket, I just think it's a great attitude to life, and I completely agree. It's got to be someone, so why wouldn't it be me? Like, I'm good enough. I am good enough. I'm for this. Like, I should shoot for that. I should try that. I should aim for that, because someone's got to do it, so it might as well be me.
And there's so much insecurity, and I hate that people hold back, because oh, it's never me.
Right.
Why would it be me?
Yes, people have an idea,
switch
like
that.
starting an Instagram account for their art, and they'll go, well, you know, someone else will do it better. But no, it's literally got to be someone. So why wouldn't be you? You can say it again and again. I love saying it. So
I love that. I'm
keeping
keeping that.
Yeah,
keeping that with me.
Good. I think enthusiasm. I was talking about this with a friend, but I think enthusiasm is really important, and that's something I found out. That's what I like about that phrase. I think enthusiasm to life is a really great way to.
Definitely. And I think actually that kind of fed into how I approached my illustration career, because I was very much like, it's going to happen. And I just knew it was going to happen.
That's good. What's the best advice you've been given? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. Actually, this is from my mum.
Okay.
Aren't parents wise? And I say this through everything, and just trust your gut.
Oh, that's good. I totally agree. Trust your instincts, yeah.
Like, especially career, jobs, and dating.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Okay, so as your comedian, do you have a favourite joke?
So I do, and it's quite a quick one, so it might take a while to think. I'd say it's a joke. It's just like 3 words. So it's just, the joke that I like is a dyslexic man walks into a bra. Do you get it? I don't want to have to explain it because that would mean it's not funny. But I like...
Oh no, explaining jokes is the worst.
Yeah, I like jokes that are like subverting. Like, my favourite memes are the ones that like subvert a really fashionable, popular meme format, and they'll take it and then just like really mock the whole idea of it. That's the kind of jokes that I like.
And I think maybe you've already answered this, but how do you know if something's funny that you've done? Do you have a strategy? Do you kind of send it out to friends?
Yeah. Well, the thing that I would say is very similar to your trust your gut advice is, if you find it funny, someone else is going to find it funny. So really do listen to yourself with that. Really do trust yourself, trust your judgment.
But does this only work if you're a naturally funny person?
No, well...
Or you think your humour is going to be someone's humour somewhere?
I think that if I find something funny, at least one other person is going to find it funny too.
In the world, somewhere. Yeah,
absolutely. And so I maybe will test it out with friends, but really I do write the cartoons and write the punchlines, and once I've finished it, I'll go away and I'll come back and I'll read it, pretending that I didn't know nothing. And I do think you can tell when a punchline hits. You sort of get a kind of rush where you're like, yes, that works, that feels satisfying, that makes me smile. And yeah, you can send it to a friend if you're not sure but one person is enough, because they might not have the same sense of humour as you. To be honest, I just think bite the bullet, put it out in the world. You've got nothing to lose. It's just social media at the end of the day. But one thing I would say, if you think that it might be going too far, then it is. If you're thinking, if you have a feeling that you're like, I'm not too sure about this, trust that. Check with someone. I really do think that.
I do that sometimes in illustrations. I will send it to a friend, be like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe change this word.
Yes.
And if that was backing up something I was already thinking, I was like, okay, how do we retackle this?
Yeah, exactly. People will say there's subjects that you can't make light of, and with me, like, a lot of the cartoons I've done are about quite dark topics, but it's because they've happened to me, so I feel like I'm allowed to joke about it. And for me personally, laughing about things is how I cope, and I think that's the same for a lot of people. So I think that you can joke about dark topics. It just has to be done in a smart way where you're punching up, not punching down. So punching up means mocking the people in charge, mocking, the 1%, the people in power, men, white people, straight people. That's punching up. Punching down is racist jokes. It's punching down is cheap, and it's lazy, and it's you shouldn't do it. It's not funny. It's not smart. So
I like that. Here we go. His advice to comedy.
Yeah.
As well. So how did you find out that drawing was the right medium for you, or is it just a temporary thing? Because I know you did stand-up.
Well, stand-up was good, but it wasn't the right fit. Drawing's the right medium for me because, like we said, you do something, you're done with it, you start something new. But actually something that I really discovered that was a real struggle for me in school was how I just communicate everything visually, and I understand everything visually. So recently someone explained bonds to me, like bonds in terms of the economy and banking. I don't really.
Oh, okay.
They explained that to me by using a salt and pepper shaver.
scientific
No.
biological bonds or chemical bonds.
Yeah, so they explained how that works to me by using a salt and pepper shaker, and that's how I understood it. So like people will explain the offside rule by using, cutlery. It's like if I can see something and it's explained through images and objects and characters, that's the best way for me to understand it. And I never really was very good at school at things like reading books or memorizing things unless they were images that I could, like metaphors of things. So that's why I think I am able to do cartoons about quite difficult subjects, often ones that are explaining things in an easy way, because for me that's how I learn, is visually, completely 100% visually. There's no other way I can digest it.
Interesting. So I digest by listening and writing.
Oh yeah.
And repeating, but I communicate visually.
Okay.
But isn't it funny how
that's
people
cool.
have like different ways of digesting?
Yeah. So that's how. So if something happens to me or a friend, or I see something online and I want to draw about it, I picture it in a cartoon form, and then that's how it transfers into paper. So that's why I think that's why I realised it was the right medium, because it comes so naturally. Yeah.
So I feel like we align really well, and we have maybe a similar brain in that we have lots of projects on the go, and we don't like to just stick to one thing and be constrained by, we're someone that only talks about this.
Yes,
and
completely.
only does this type of work. Mm-hmm. So what else have you got on the go at the moment, like projects in the peripheral? So you've got the t-shirts.
Yeah, so that's something I just do once a month. But projects I have going I have a book coming out in August 19th. So
What's it called?
It's called Kyle Theory.
So I feel like we need to discuss where Kyle came from.
Yeah, well, like Kyle's I think a name that a lot of people use as like a scapegoat name for, I would say, a kind of closed-minded guy, kind of aggressive. That's what people use Kyle for. But for me, I just used the name because I didn't know anyone called Kyle, so I didn't feel bad calling the male the baddies in my cartoons Kyle. Because if I use like, I know I have lots of men in my life with very common names. I didn't want to, offend anyone. So, but actually, I've had a few Kyles reach out to me who are really great, and are really
awesome.
I really in on the joke, really good sports about it. Like, I find it really funny. It's hilarious. So that's good. So Kyle so Kyle is the scapegoat name that I use for characters in my cartoons. And this book is basically about me and a troll, and me kind of explaining. It's like a lot of cartoons you've seen before and some you haven't, but it's sort of like explaining feminism to him, I guess. Explaining the shit we go through to him. And you can get that August 19th.
Yes. How did the book come about? Did someone approach you? Or did you approach
someone approached me, and I had always wanted to put, because I think if you're a digital artist, everything you do exists online. You never really have a physical form. So I wanted to put everything I've been working on for the last 3 or 4 years in something physical. So it's been amazing to be able to feel that, hold that, and just see it in physical form.
Oh, I bet. And it's just another avenue of things you do now, because you're now an author.
Yeah, mad. I mean, that makes me feel sick, but yeah. So, and also it's good for people who don't have Instagram, who people don't always want to be on social media, which I completely understand, but they want to see my drawings. So that's a good way of doing that. So I have that. I'm working on another thing, but I can't announce what that is. It's a collab with someone who's a great artist, and it's going to be a fun thing that you can buy from both of our shops.
So exciting.
Yeah. I'm also developing my shop more, just to have more stuff on it. So that will be happening. I'm teaching myself to tattoo.
Yes.
Long
wait
term.
To see those.
Yeah. You'll see me with all sorts, doodles up and down my arm. Long term, I would love to learn to animate or work with an animator and come up with some kind of short comedy web series. That's long term what I'd love to do. Apart from that, I'm just kind of chugging along, making cartoons, posting them online. I'm thinking about doing a Patreon, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, so Patreon's an interesting one, because I feel like it would be a lot of effort, but I know some people, for them it's really profitable and it builds a really nice community. Yes. I feel like you'd be able to have a really good Patreon if you have the time.
Also, I'd love to create a graphic novel one day too, but again, long way away. But
we have time.
We do.
There's time.
There is time, yeah. I'm only 26, there's time.
I feel like we just want everything now.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I always have a list of 1,000 things to do and never enough time. But yeah, Patreon, for people who don't know, is kind of like a subscription service for the creators that you like. So you can pay between £1 and £20 a month, and you get things in return, like you know, a postcard or exclusive content. And I think it's one of those things that you can do it on a very small level, but if I was going to do it, I'd want to do it on I really want to put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, definitely. Just to make it worth. I feel like I'd also, if I did one, I'd want to give people a lot for supporting.
People are amazing and want to support you with their money, and I just feel I have a huge imposter syndrome about taking people's money still. So I want to give them free stuff all the time, and everyone's like, stop giving away free shit to everyone who messages you. But it's like,
people will pay.
I still can't believe that people want to see everything I draw. I just think it's mad to me and so nice, but I just find it crazy. So I just want to like do something in return, like give them shit. But then I lose money, so I have to be a little bit conservative about it.
Yeah, I promise you, people will. I will buy. I will.
I'm getting better at being like, no, it's okay. I'm allowed to be paid to do something creative, because that's not how people raise people in this world. That's not how school raises you. It doesn't tell you that you can earn money and be self-employed doing something creative. But I really do think that that's changing. And
art isn't a hobby.
Yes,
it is a valid career.
Totally. You know, being self-employed has its downsides, but it also is great. It's great.
Yeah, like we were talking today about how we just watch a lot of TV. Once we've got our idea nailed, we're just watching TV and feeling like, are we allowed to do this? Is this okay?
Yeah, so much of the process is like thinking and writing, but once you have everything mapped out, you are just really putting pen to paper and doing what comes naturally. So your brain is freed up. So I often listen to podcasts, anything that basically keeps me at my desk, because if you're just letting your brain run free, I go into a dark place and we'll just get distracted, go on social media, do online shopping, whatever. So anything that keeps me here, and that might be binging a series whilst I'm drawing, listening to like a crime podcast. True crime is the best when it comes to
What
drawing.
do you recommend?
Well, everyone knows my favourite murder, but I think that's a really good one because it's like an hour-long episodes. Oh, you know what I do recommend? It's not true crime, but I recommend the Savage Love Cast, which is Dan Savage is like a relationship. I call him like Esther Perel for millennials and Gen Z.
Oh, I love Esther Perel though, so I'd recommend Esther Perel.
Esther Perel's good. I find her a little bit more serious.
Oh, she's so serious.
Yeah, but Dan Savage is like very funny, and to be honest, most of it's about kink and polyamory, but it's all things I'm interested in. So he just has people who call in and will ask for advice, and he gives them very honest, sometimes brutal advice, but I just find it really educates me as well, because most of his audience are queer, he's queer, and it's just a really good insight into that world.
Nice. I'm going to give him a listen.
You should. I would just be walking down the street laughing my head off because he'll be talking about like rimming people so graphically as if that's normal.
And you're just on the tube or something.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is so naughty. I can't believe I'm just sitting here listening to people talking about rimming, but it's the world we live in, and I'm happy that we live there.
Oh, I love that. I feel like that's a good place to end as well.
Okay,
on rimming. Shall we?
Yeah, let's end on rimming.
So Lily, thank you so much for joining me and being my first guest. I hope you've enjoyed this very honest, open conversation about career, comedy, art, freelancing. And yeah, thank you for joining as well. If you've made it this far, if you've had us on in the background, and I'll see you for another one soon. Thank you. Bye.
Sick. Well done. That was great. I really enjoyed that.